All right, that does it for that witness. As you see, he just stepped off the stand, a detective from the Dallas Police Department. We have Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator, joining us right now, coming in on the discussion, along with my other guests still with me, Cheryl Dorsey, a retired LAPD sergeant, and Terry Austin, an attorney. So that was a brief cross-examination where, once again, defense attorneys sought to show, look how similar the two doors look of these apartments. This is something we've heard now for 4 days in the trial. We've seen. Joseph, what difference does it really make at this point? I mean, no one is really disputing that she got the apartments confused, right?
It doesn't, Stacey. Well, on one level it does, and this is why. Because, you know, the jury was not there when this happened. You don't have these in real time, so these moments frozen in time give us an indication of spatial orientation and the reality of it. You know, maybe for some of the jurors, they want to try to further understand and trying to put themselves in that place in their mind to understand, you know, what was her perception at the time. And that's very difficult to do retroactively. And so all we have to go on are these photographs.
There was this discussion of the red mat, right? Because Botham Jean's apartment had a red mat in front. Amber Guyger's did not. Now, I mean, no pun intended, red mat, it seems like a red flag that is something you would notice. Ladies, let me bring you into this. I mean, Cheryl, the red mat here, that's one big differentiation between these two doors. While the actual doors themselves and the lighting to the left, you know, that all may have looked the same. The door knocker, you got this big red mat there.
Absolutely. And listen, as I'm thinking about this, it almost gives me pause, because I'm thinking as you stand at the door to put in your key, you may even touch the mat. And so there's going to be an elevation difference, right, between, and listen, as a lady, we pay attention to that, particularly depending on the kinds of shoes we're wearing. So there were all kinds of indicators that she was someplace other than her own apartment, in my mind.
Terry, do you agree?
I could not agree more. In fact, in my opinion, that red mat is a red flag. And it almost makes you think, and I know it wasn't intentional, but if she didn't notice the red mat, oh my goodness. I mean, everyone who lives in an apartment building, as you say, sometimes mistakes going the wrong way on the elevator, going on the wrong floor, but you notice these differences. And when you open your own door, you're looking down to put the key in. She must have noticed the red mat. And if she didn't, what was she thinking?
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be a big question here. Was she too distracted from the text messages she was sending? We don't know. Here we go again, some more video this Texas Ranger took. This time, I believe this perhaps we're now looking at the 4th floor. Before it was the 3rd floor. And remember, Amber Guyger didn't just get off an elevator on the wrong floor. She parked on the wrong floor of the garage. The garage, you're supposed to, if you live on the 3rd floor, you park on the 3rd floor of the garage. You live on the 4th, you park on the 4th, and so on and so forth. She parked on the 4th floor, entered the 4th floor when she lives on the 3rd. So this is the vantage point we're getting in these videos. But again, the detective was just asked, when you were on the 3rd, the 3rd floor where Amber lived, did you see any red mats? And he said no. So here we are back to this red mat. So it's not as if she could get you know, say, okay, here's my floor. Oh, no, a lot of people have red mats. I mean, the red mat seems to be a pretty unique distinguishing feature, and I believe we're seeing it there on the left. Joseph, what do you make of this and the red mat? Earlier, the other guests talked about how significant they believe it is. Oh, there's a red mat as well on the right.
Yeah, it is significant in the sense that, again, this paints for the jury the context of this environment. You know, they're watching it as close to real time as they possibly can in the way this ranger is portraying it here through videography. You notice there's no sound. Generally on these, they'll kill the sound so that there's nothing to distract the viewer from assessing what's going on. But even as he was passing down that hallway initially, that red mat jumped out at me. Just a moment ago, there was comment that was made about distractions. If your eyes are on this phone and you're texting and doing all these things, you're not going to have an awareness of what's beneath your feet. You're just going to your eyes are going to be up. That's the way we are as humans. You're going to be looking over the top, over the top of the phone, essentially to get a brief orientation, and that information is being transferred back to our brain. And there are wild assumptions being made at that moment in time. We are assuming that we are in our space. Obviously, just as you had stated, she had parked in the wrong space, so she was completely disoriented. I really wonder what was going on while she was in the car parking that evening upon her return home. And so this whole thing is about the relationship of her spatial ability to recognize these things, and exactly how distracted was she? Was it fatigue that was driving this? Was it the sexual, the texting?
Right, the texting back and forth. We don't know. Let me bring in my other guests. I mean, ladies, do you agree it's possible she was just so distracted she just wasn't paying attention to any of her surroundings? Her face was in the phone, so she wasn't noticing the maps. And if she was, does that even make a difference, Cheryl?
Listen, here's the thing. When she parked in that parking structure, we've seen from the two varying levels. The third level, all you see is wall around you. The fourth level, when you park, you see a skyline, you see buildings and open area next to you. She backed in. When you're backing in, you're doing that with some specificity, right? You're going to be paying attention to make sure you don't back into a wall. And so how could she have missed all of these signs? It just doesn't ring true for me.
There's certainly a lot of questions. Quickly, Terry, I mean, do you agree with that? How did she get so many things wrong?
Listen, I know that the defense has to argue that, she was distracted, and the prosecution is saying the same thing. But in my opinion, oh my gosh, how could she miss all of these multiple signs?
Quick break. We'll be right back with much more. Stay with us.